I'll write part 1 of your story in a separate document with the specifications you've requested. 1,400 words, no heading, simple English, engaging narrative, natural tone, human-centric, and YouTube-friendly content. I'll avoid using common names, like Marcus, Sarah, Emma, or Jamal, and instead create a more unique character name. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of Westside Community Bank, casting long rectangles of light across the polished marble floor. The bank had just opened its doors for the day, and already a handful of customers were scattered throughout the lobby, some filling out deposit slips while others waited in the velvet-roped line. Behind window number 4 sat Tyler Collins, a thin man with neatly combed hair and a crisp white shirt that looked like it had been ironed twice. Tyler had been working at Westside for almost 4 years now, and he had developed what he considered a special talent. He could size up a customer's worth in seconds flat. Big account holders carry themselves differently, he often told the newer tellers during lunch breaks. They have a certain confidence, a way of standing that says they belong. The other tellers would nod, though a few exchanged glances when Tyler wasn't looking. Tyler believed that his ability to spot wealthy clients had helped him climb from junior teller to senior teller in record time. His supervisor appreciated how he gave special attention to the bank's premium clients, always ensuring they never waited too long and received personalized service. "Next customer, please," Tyler called out, his voice carrying across the lobby. A middle-aged woman with a designer handbag approached, and Tyler straightened up immediately. He recognized the Prada logo and the subtle flash of diamond earrings. "Good morning, Mrs. Thornton," he said, though he had never met her before. He just knew the type with healthy six-figure balances. Mrs. Thornton seemed pleased by the attention, and Tyler spent extra time helping her transfer funds between accounts. When she left, she was smiling, and Tyler made a mental note to remember her face for next time. The morning continued this way, Tyler giving his brightest smiles and most attentive service to those who looked like they had money. For customers in worn clothes or those who seemed hesitant, his demeanor cooled noticeably. He wasn't rude exactly. He was too professional for that. But there was a distinct difference in his tone, his posture, the time he took with them. By early afternoon, the lunch rush had died down, and Tyler was checking his watch, wondering if he could sneak away for a coffee before his break officially started. That's when he noticed a man joining the back of the line. At first glance, there wasn't much to notice about him. He wore faded jeans that had clearly seen better days, a plain black t-shirt, and a worn leather jacket despite the warm spring day. His dark hair fell past his shoulders in a slightly messy way, and he had several days' worth of stubble on his face. He kept his head down, eyes on the floor, as if trying not to be noticed. Probably cashing a minimum wage check, Tyler thought to himself with a slight smirk. As the man shuffled forward in line, Tyler found himself watching him more closely. There was something familiar about him, but Tyler couldn't quite place it. Maybe he was a regular at one of the coffee shops nearby, or perhaps he'd seen him on the bus. Whoever he was, he clearly wasn't someone who mattered, at least not in Tyler's carefully ranked world. When the man finally reached the front of the line, Tyler didn't bother with his usual welcoming smile. "Next," he called, barely making eye contact. The man stepped forward quietly. Up close, Tyler noticed he wore scuffed motorcycle boots and carried a simple backpack over one shoulder. "Nothing designer, nothing impressive. How can I help you?" Tyler asked, his tone flat and uninterested. "I need to make a withdrawal, please," the man replied, his voice surprisingly gentle and well-spoken. Tyler slid a withdrawal slip across the counter. "Fill this out completely. ID required," he said mechanically. While the man began filling out the form, an elderly woman approached Tyler's window with a question about mortgage rates. Though the scruffy man was mid-transaction, Tyler immediately turned his attention to the well-dressed newcomer. "I'd be happy to help you with that information," Tyler told her warmly. "Let me just finish with this gentleman quickly, and then I can print you our current rates." The dark-haired man said nothing, just continued filling out his form while Tyler made the elderly woman laugh with a charming comment about the weather. When the form was pushed back across the counter, Tyler barely glanced at it. "ID?" Tyler prompted, his tone clipped. The man reached into his back pocket and pulled out a wallet. It was simple black leather worn around the edges. He extracted his driver's license and placed it on the counter. Tyler picked it up, ready to glance at it quickly and move on with the transaction. But something made him pause. He looked at the name on the license, then up at the man standing before him, then back at the license again. A few customers in line had begun to whisper. A young woman was nudging her friend, pointing discreetly. A businessman in line had taken out his phone and was trying to subtly angle it toward Tyler's window. Tyler squinted at the license photo, then at the man's face. The long hair, the kind eyes, they matched. But surely this couldn't be right. Is there a problem? The man asked quietly. No problem. Tyler stammered, suddenly feeling flustered. I just need to verify your account information. One moment, please. Tyler turned to his computer and typed in the ID number, his fingers suddenly clumsy on the keyboard. When the account details appeared on his screen, he nearly gasped out loud. The balance displayed was in the millions, and the name on the account matched the license, Keanu Reeves. Tyler's mind raced. Could it really be him? The Keanu Reeves, star of The Matrix, John Wick, and countless other blockbusters? One of Hollywood's most beloved actors was standing at his window, dressed like an ordinary person, waiting patiently while Tyler had been dismissive and borderline rude. Tyler felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. He had treated one of the wealthiest and most famous actors in the world like he was nobody. Everything seems to be in order, Tyler managed, his voice suddenly higher than normal. How would you like the funds, Mr. Reeves? A few more heads turned at the mention of the name. The whispers in line grew louder. Hundreds would be fine, Keanu replied simply, seemingly unaware or unbothered by the stir he was creating. Tyler's hands shook slightly as he counted out the bills. He was painfully aware of his earlier behavior, of how he had prioritized the elderly woman's question over finishing Keanu's transaction, of his cold tone and dismissive attitude. I'm a huge fan of your work, Tyler blurted out, unable to help himself. Keanu smiled slightly, the expression transforming his tired face. Thank you, he said sincerely. The Matrix is one of my favorite movies of all time, Tyler continued, now counting the bills a second time because he'd lost track the first time. And John Wick, absolutely incredible. Keanu nodded politely, but said nothing more. Tyler handed over the cash along with a receipt. Is there anything else I can help you with today? He asked, now using the special tone he reserved for the bank's wealthiest clients. That's all, thanks, Keanu said, tucking the money into his wallet. If you ever need anything at all, please don't hesitate to ask for me personally, Tyler insisted, leaning forward slightly. I'd be more than happy to handle your banking needs directly. Something flickered across Keanu's face. Was it amusement? Discomfort? Tyler couldn't tell. Have a wonderful day, Mr. Reeves, Tyler called as the actor turned to leave. Keanu paused and looked back at him. For a moment their eyes met, and Tyler felt a strange sensation, as if the actor could see right through him, could see exactly how he judged people, sorted them, treated them differently based on what he thought they were worth. You too, Keanu said simply, and then he was walking away, his worn boots quiet on the marble floor. As the famous actor headed toward the exit, Tyler noticed how other bank employees were staring, whispering behind their hands. A security guard had even pulled out his phone, probably to take a picture. But Keanu just kept his head down the same way he had when he'd entered. Humble, unassuming, not looking for any special treatment despite being worth millions. Tyler turned to the next customer in line, but his mind was elsewhere. For the first time, he felt deeply ashamed of how he treated people he deemed unimportant. He thought about all the customers he'd dismissed over the years, all the people he'd judged based solely on their appearance or perceived wealth. What if some of them had been like Keanu, people of substance and character who simply didn't flaunt what they had? Or more importantly, what if they had been ordinary people who deserved respect regardless of their bank balance? As the afternoon wore on, Tyler found himself treating each customer with the same level of courtesy and attention. And strangely, it felt good. Better than the artificial high he got from sucking up to rich clients. Maybe, he thought as he drove home that evening, he had been the poor one all along. I've written a 1,400-word detailed narrative for part 1 of your story, focusing on a bank teller named Tyler Collins, who judges customers based on their appearance and perceived wealth. The story builds to his encounter with Keanu Reeves, who appears unassuming despite his celebrity status and wealth. The writing uses simple, accessible language while maintaining an engaging flow. I've kept the tone natural and conversational, making it feel like something written by a human rather than AI. The content is YouTube-friendly with no policy violations, and I've avoided using the names you mentioned. Would you like me to make any adjustments to this first part before moving on to the next sections? I'll write part 2 of your story with all the specifications you've requested. 1,400 words, no heading, simple English, engaging narrative, natural tone, human-centric, and YouTube-friendly content. I'll continue with Tyler as our bank teller character, and Keanu Reeves as the celebrity customer. The next morning, Tyler arrived at Westside Community Bank 20 minutes early. He sat in his car, staring at the imposing building with its gleaming windows, thinking about yesterday's encounter. The image of Keanu Reeves standing humbly at his window, quietly accepting Tyler's sudden shift in treatment, wouldn't leave his mind. Tyler had barely slept. He'd spent half the night scrolling through articles about Keanu online, learning about the actor's reputation for kindness and generosity despite his fame and fortune, stories about him giving up millions of his Matrix earnings to the special effects team, riding the subway like a regular person and quietly funding children's hospitals without seeking publicity. And I treated him like dirt until I saw his bank balance, Tyler muttered to himself, gripping his steering wheel. He finally got out of his car and walked into the bank, nodding at the security guard who was unlocking the front doors. Inside, the morning cleaning crew was just finishing up, and the smell of lemon polish hung in the air. Tyler made his way to the break room where a few early arriving colleagues were already gathered, sipping coffee and chatting about their evenings. "Hey, did you really help Keanu Reeves yesterday?" asked Diane from the loan department, her eyes wide with excitement. Tyler nodded, pouring himself a cup of coffee that he didn't really want. "Yeah, he came to my window." "What was he like?" another colleague asked, leaning forward eagerly. Tyler paused, thinking about how to answer. "He was normal, really normal. Dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, you wouldn't know he was famous or rich just by looking at him." "Did you get his autograph?" Diane pressed. "No," Tyler admitted, feeling a twinge of regret. "I didn't want to bother him." What he didn't say was how he had treated Keanu before recognizing him. The dismissive tone, the impatient gestures, the way he had prioritized another customer in the middle of Keanu's transaction. The memory made his stomach twist with shame. As 9 o'clock approached, everyone took their positions. Tyler settled into his chair at window number 4, arranged his pens and forms, and logged into the system. The doors opened, and the first customers of the day began trickling in. Throughout the morning, Tyler found himself watching each person more carefully than usual. An elderly man in worn clothing who Tyler might have rushed through yesterday received his full attention today. A young woman with tattoos and ripped jeans got the same courteous service as the businessman in the expensive suit. By lunchtime, Tyler felt strangely lighter. There was something freeing about treating everyone the same way, about not constantly calculating who deserved his best service based on their appearance or potential bank balance. When his lunch break arrived, Tyler decided to walk to the small sandwich shop around the corner instead of eating in the break room where questions about Keanu would inevitably continue. As he waited in line to order, he noticed a familiar figure sitting alone by the window, a baseball cap pulled low over his face, reading a book while eating soup. Tyler froze. It couldn't be. Not 2 days in a row. But it was. Keanu Reeves was sitting there, unnoticed by everyone else in the busy lunch spot, quietly enjoying his meal like any other person on their lunch break. Tyler ordered his sandwich in a daze, then hesitated, clutching his receipt. Should he go over and say something? Apologize for his behavior yesterday? Or would it be better to leave the actor in peace? While he was still deciding, someone bumped into him from behind, pushing him forward a few steps, right into Keanu's line of sight. The actor glanced up, and for a brief moment their eyes met. A flicker of recognition crossed Keanu's face. Tyler felt rooted to the spot. He should move, should pretend he hadn't seen him, should respect the man's privacy. But instead he found himself walking over. "Excuse me, Mr. Reeves," Tyler said quietly, his heart hammering in his chest. "I don't want to disturb your lunch, but I just wanted to apologize for my behavior at the bank yesterday." Keanu looked up, surprised. He closed his book and gestured to the empty chair across from him. "No apology necessary. Have a seat if you'd like." Tyler sat down, his sandwich forgotten in his hands. "I'm really sorry for how I treated you before I knew who you were. It wasn't right." Keanu studied him for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "You know," he said finally, "most people apologize for the opposite reason. They apologize for bothering me after they recognize me." Tyler felt his face grow hot. "I was rude to you because I judged you by your appearance. I assumed because of your clothes that you weren't important." The words felt terrible coming out of his mouth. "And now that you know I have money, I'm important?" Keanu asked. There was no accusation in his tone, just genuine curiosity. "That's how I used to think," Tyler admitted. "I've spent years at that bank treating people differently based on how much I thought they were worth. But seeing you yesterday, someone so successful being so humble, it made me realize how wrong I've been." Keanu took a sip of his water. "You know what I've learned after years in Hollywood? The way someone treats you when they think you're nobody shows you exactly who they are." The words hit Tyler like a punch to the gut. How many people had he shown his worst self to over the years? "I've been trying to do better today," Tyler said quietly. "Treating everyone the same no matter what they're wearing or how they look." "And how does that feel?" Keanu asked. "Good," Tyler said, surprising himself with how true it was. "Really good, actually. Less exhausting than constantly sizing people up." Keanu smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his serious face. "That's the secret nobody tells you. Being kind to everyone is actually easier than deciding who deserves kindness." They talked for a few more minutes about the bank, about the neighborhood, about nothing in particular. Not once did Keanu mention his movies or his fame. He asked questions about Tyler's life with genuine interest, listening carefully to the answers. When Tyler glanced at his watch and realized his break was almost over, he stood up reluctantly. "I should get back to work. Thank you for letting me apologize." "No thanks needed," Keanu said. "But can I ask you something?" "Of course," Tyler replied. "If you hadn't recognized me yesterday, if you still thought I was just some scruffy guy with no money, would you be sitting here now?" The question hung in the air between them. Tyler wanted to lie, to say of course he would, but something in Keanu's eyes made dishonesty impossible. "Probably not," he admitted. "And that's something I need to work on." Keanu nodded, seeming to appreciate the honesty. Self-awareness is the first step to change. As Tyler walked back to the bank, he felt strangely energized. The brief conversation with Keanu had affected him more deeply than he expected. The actor hadn't been preachy or judgmental. He had simply asked the right questions. Questions that forced Tyler to confront truths about himself that he had been avoiding for years. The afternoon at the bank passed quickly. Tyler found himself learning the names of customers he had seen for years but never bothered to truly acknowledge. He discovered that the old man in the worn jacket who came in every Thursday was a retired physics professor who had taught at the local university for 40 years. The young woman with tattoos who he had always rushed through her transactions was saving up to open her own bakery. These people had stories, dreams, lives that were every bit as valuable as those of the wealthy clients Tyler had fawned over for so long. When closing time came, Tyler stayed late organizing his station and reflecting on the changes of the past 2 days. As he walked to his car in the fading light, he spotted a motorcycle parked near the entrance, a classic Triumph, beautifully maintained. Standing beside it, helmet in hand, was Keanu Reeves. "Nice bike," Tyler said, approaching cautiously. Thanks, Keanu replied. I've got another errand at the bank, but I think you're closed now. We are, Tyler confirmed. But I could let you in if it's important. Keanu shook his head. It can wait until tomorrow. Nothing urgent. They stood in awkward silence for a moment before Tyler gathered his courage. I just wanted to say thank you. Our conversation earlier, it meant a lot. Actions mean more than words, Keanu said simply. I'll be watching to see if you meant what you said. With that, he put on his helmet, climbed onto the motorcycle, and roared away into the evening, leaving Tyler standing in the parking lot with the strange feeling that his life had just changed in ways he couldn't yet fully understand. I've written part 2 of your story, continuing from where we left off. In this section, Tyler encounters Keanu again during his lunch break at a nearby sandwich shop, which gives him the opportunity to apologize for his behavior. Through their conversation, Tyler begins to genuinely reflect on how he's been treating people and starts making changes in his approach at the bank. The narrative maintains the engaging style from part 1 while deepening the character development. I've kept the language simple and natural, focusing on the human elements of the story rather than technical banking details. The ending sets up for the next part with Keanu mentioning he'll be returning to the bank, suggesting their paths will cross again. Would you like me to make any adjustments to this second part before moving on to part 3? I'll write part 3 of your story following all your specifications. 1,400 words, no heading, simple English, engaging narrative, natural tone, human-centric, and YouTube-friendly content. I'll continue developing the relationship between Tyler and Keanu Reeves while advancing the story. The next morning brought a steady downpour, the kind that turns umbrellas inside out and soaks through even the most waterproof shoes. Tyler ducked through the bank's revolving door, shaking raindrops from his coat and trying to smooth his damp hair back into place. Rough morning out there, called the security guard, mopping the puddles forming on the marble floor. Feels like the whole sky opened up, Tyler agreed, heading for the break room to dry off before his shift started. He'd woken up thinking about his conversation with Keanu yesterday, about the actor's parting words. I'll be watching to see if you meant what you said. The statement had kept him up half the night. Would Keanu really come back to test him? Was he being observed somehow? Or was it just something the actor said to make him think? Either way, it was working. Tyler had arrived determined to treat every customer today with the same respect and attention he would give to a millionaire movie star. By 10:30, the rain had driven more people than usual into the bank. The lobby was packed, every seat taken with a line stretching almost to the door. Tyler worked steadily, trying to be both efficient and genuinely helpful to each person. He learned that a young couple was making their final payment on a car loan, that an elderly woman was setting up accounts for her new grandchildren, that a teenager was depositing his first paycheck ever. Each small story made the job more interesting than it had been when Tyler saw customers as nothing more than their account balances. Around 11, Tyler glanced up to call the next person in line and froze. There, third from the front, stood Keanu Reeves. He was more dressed up today, dark jeans, a button-down shirt under a charcoal blazer, his long hair tied back neatly. He looked more like the movie star the world knew, less like the scruffy stranger Tyler had first dismissed. Tyler's heart raced. Had Keanu specifically chosen his line again? Was this the test he'd mentioned? 2 customers later, Keanu stepped up to the window. "Good morning," Tyler said, keeping his voice professional and friendly, the exact same tone he'd used with everyone else that day. "Morning," Keanu replied, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I need to speak with someone about setting up a new account." Tyler nodded. "What type of account were you thinking about?" "A charitable foundation," Keanu explained. "I want to establish a private foundation with an initial deposit, but I need to understand the banking requirements." Tyler felt a flicker of uncertainty. This was beyond his usual responsibilities as a teller. Normally, he would immediately call over his supervisor for a high-value client like Keanu Reeves, especially for something as complex as establishing a foundation account. But something told him that the right move The fair move was to treat this request exactly as he would for any customer. For specialized accounts like that, you'd need to speak with our accounts manager, Tyler explained. I'd be happy to introduce you to Mr. Peterson, who handles all our foundation and nonprofit accounts. He's with another client right now, but he should be free in about 20 minutes. Keanu nodded, seeming pleased with the response. That works for me. Great, Tyler said. Would you like to wait in our private meeting area? I can bring you some coffee while you wait. As soon as the words left his mouth, Tyler realized what he'd done, offered special treatment that he wouldn't have given to an ordinary customer. He quickly corrected himself. Or you're welcome to use the general waiting area, which is what we typically offer all clients who are waiting for appointments. Keanu's eyes twinkled, as if he'd caught the slip and the correction. The general waiting area is fine, thank you. As Keanu turned to go, Tyler made a split-second decision. Mr. Reeves, he called quietly. When the actor turned back, Tyler continued. Just so you know, we offer coffee and water to all our waiting customers. It's in the corner by the magazines. Keanu smiled, a real, warm smile. Good to know. For the next 20 minutes, Tyler kept glancing over at Keanu, who sat calmly in the waiting area, flipping through a magazine. No one approached him for autographs or photos. In his slightly more polished appearance today, a few people seemed to do double takes, but the busy bank lobby provided a certain anonymity that seemed to protect him. When Mr. Peterson finally emerged from his office, Tyler caught his eye and waved him over. Mr. Peterson, this is a client who's interested in setting up a foundation account, Tyler said, making the introduction without mentioning Keanu's name or status. I told him you're the expert on these matters. Mr. Peterson, a tall man with silver hair and the practiced smile of someone who had spent decades in customer service, turned to Keanu and extended his hand. Then he froze, recognition dawning on his face. Mr. Reeves, he said, his professional demeanor slipping for just a moment. It's an honor to meet you. Please come to my office where we can discuss your foundation needs in private. As they walked away, Keanu glanced back at Tyler and gave him a small nod that somehow felt like approval. The rest of the day passed without incident. Tyler found himself wondering about the foundation Keanu was establishing. Was it for children's hospitals, as some of the online articles had suggested? Or for cancer research in honor of his sister who had battled leukemia? Tyler realized it didn't matter. The important thing was that here was someone using their wealth to help others, not just to buy expensive things or boost their own status. Near the end of his shift, Tyler was counting his drawer when Mr. Peterson approached, looking slightly starstruck. Did you know who that was this morning? He asked in a low voice. Yes, Tyler admitted. He's been in a few times this week. Well, he just set up a $2 million foundation, Mr. Peterson said, clearly impressed. He was very specific about the terms. All the money goes directly to supporting local arts programs for underprivileged kids. No administrative costs, no publicity. He doesn't even want his name attached to it. Tyler nodded, somehow not surprised. That seems like him. The thing is, Mr. Peterson continued, he mentioned you specifically. Said you provided excellent service that was refreshingly equal. Equal, Tyler repeated. His exact words were, he treated me like a person, not like a celebrity or a bank balance. He seemed to really appreciate that. Mr. Peterson looked at Tyler curiously. I didn't realize you two knew each other. We don't, Tyler said. Not really. He's just been to my window a few times. After Mr. Peterson walked away, Tyler sat thinking about Keanu's comment. Equal service. Treating someone like a person. Such simple concepts, yet Tyler had spent years doing the exact opposite, giving special treatment to some while rushing, others through, based entirely on superficial judgments. As Tyler was leaving for the day, he spotted Keanu in Mr. Peterson's office, signing papers. Their eyes met through the glass and Tyler gave a small wave, which Keanu returned. Outside in the parking lot, the rain had stopped, leaving behind that clean, fresh smell that follows a good downpour. Tyler took a deep breath, feeling oddly peaceful. All finished up in there? A voice asked behind him. Tyler turned to find Keanu approaching, a folder tucked under his arm. "Yeah, just headed home," Tyler replied. "Mr. Peterson mentioned your foundation. It sounds amazing." Keanu shrugged, looking slightly uncomfortable with the praise. "It's nothing special, just trying to make sure these kids get the same chances others have. Equal opportunities," Tyler said, thinking back to their conversation. "Exactly." Keanu studied him for a moment. "You know, I've been to a lot of banks over the years. It's interesting how differently people treat you based on what they think you're worth." "I'm trying to do better," Tyler said honestly. "I can see that," Keanu replied. "It's not easy to change habits." They stood in silence for a moment, the late afternoon sun breaking through the clouds and casting long shadows across the wet pavement. "Can I ask you something?" Tyler finally said. "Why did you come back to my window that second day after I was so dismissive the first time?" Keanu considered the question. "Sometimes people deserve a second chance to show who they really are," he said simply. "And sometimes people need a mirror held up to see themselves clearly." "Well, thank you for the second chance," Tyler said. "And for the mirror." Keanu nodded. "See you around, Tyler," he said, then headed toward his motorcycle parked nearby. Tyler watched him go, thinking about mirrors and reflections and the person he saw when he looked at himself now versus a few days ago. The image was different. Still flawed, but maybe a little clearer, a little more honest. As he got into his car, Tyler noticed a piece of paper tucked under his windshield wiper. He pulled it out, expecting an advertisement or maybe a note about a ding in his car door. Instead, it was a handwritten message on expensive stationery. "The foundation board meets next Thursday at 7. We need a treasurer who understands banking. Someone who sees people, not just numbers. Interested? KR." Tyler read the note 3 times, a smile spreading across his face. A chance to be part of something meaningful, something bigger than himself. A chance to keep learning the lesson. Keanu had started teaching him 3 days ago. He carefully folded the note and put it in his wallet next to a picture of his parents. "Some things you keep close, to remind you of who you want to be." I've written part 3 of your story, where Keanu returns to the bank to establish a charitable foundation, giving Tyler another opportunity to demonstrate his changing attitude. This part develops the relationship between the 2 characters while showing Tyler's continued growth. The narrative concludes with Keanu offering Tyler a position as treasurer on his foundation board, recognizing the value in someone who is learning to see people beyond their appearance or wealth. The writing maintains a simple, engaging style with natural dialogue and human-centered storytelling. I've kept the pacing varied with a mix of action, dialogue, and internal reflection to keep readers engaged throughout. Would you like me to make any adjustments to this 3rd part before moving on to part 4? I'll write part 4 of your story following. All your specifications. 1,400 words, no heading, simple English, engaging narrative, natural tone, human-centric, and YouTube-friendly content. I'll continue developing the relationship between Tyler and Keanu while advancing the story to its next stage. Thursday evening came faster than Tyler expected. He stood outside a renovated warehouse in the Arts District, double-checking the address on the invitation. The building looked nothing like what he had imagined for a foundation meeting. No gleaming high-rise, no fancy office complex. Instead, it was a former industrial space with large windows and a simple metal door marked only with the number 520. Tyler smoothed down his tie for the 10th time and checked his watch. 6:52 p.m. He was early, but that was better than being late for his first meeting. He had spent the week wondering if accepting Keanu's offer was the right move. Did he really deserve a position on this foundation board? What qualified him beyond a few days of decent behavior after years of judging customers? But something about the opportunity felt important, like a door opening to a different version of himself. Tyler took a deep breath and pushed open the metal door. Inside, the warehouse had been transformed into an open, welcoming space. Exposed brick walls were painted white. Wooden beams crossed the high ceiling, and clusters of comfortable furniture created natural gathering spots throughout the large room. At the center stood a large oval table with about a dozen chairs around it. Only a few people were there already, talking quietly in small groups. Tyler didn't recognize anyone, and for a moment he considered leaving. What was he doing here, among people who probably had impressive backgrounds in charity work or education? "Tyler," a familiar voice called. "Glad you made it." Keanu walked toward him, dressed simply in black jeans and a gray sweater. He extended his hand and Tyler shook it, relieved to see a familiar face. "I wasn't sure about the address," Tyler admitted. "It's not what I expected. We wanted somewhere that felt like the community we're trying to serve, not some corporate boardroom," Keanu explained, guiding Tyler toward the central table. "This building actually used to be an arts center before funding got cut. We're hoping to bring it back to life as part of the foundation's work." As they approached the table, Keanu introduced Tyler to the others who had arrived early. There was a local high school art teacher, the director of a youth center, a retired business owner, and a young woman who ran a community theater program. No one seemed starstruck by Keanu or surprised to see him there. They treated him like any other board member. "Everyone, this is Tyler Collins," Keanu said. "He works at Westside Bank and has agreed to consider helping us manage the foundation's finances." "Nice to meet you," the art teacher said warmly. "We definitely need someone who understands the banking side of things. None of us are exactly financial experts." Over the next 15 minutes, more people arrived. A city council member, a parent advocate, a local musician, and several others whose backgrounds all connected to arts education or community service. By 7 o'clock, all 12 seats at the table were filled, and Keanu called the meeting to order. "Thanks for coming, everyone," he said. "As you know, the foundation has been established with initial funding of $2 million. Our mission is to restore arts programs in schools and communities where they've been cut. We want to make sure every kid has access to music, visual arts, theater, dance, whatever speaks to them." The meeting proceeded with a level of organization that surprised Tyler. These weren't just well-meaning volunteers, these were people who knew how to get things done. They discussed potential program locations, equipment needs, instructor hiring, and outreach strategies with practical efficiency. Throughout it all, Tyler noticed something unusual about Keanu's role. Despite being the donor and the famous name, he didn't dominate the conversation or insist on his ideas being prioritized. Instead, he listened carefully to others, asked thoughtful questions, and deferred to those with more expertise in specific areas. When the discussion turned to financial matters, Keanu looked to Tyler. "Tyler, I know this is your first meeting, but would you mind sharing your thoughts on how we should structure the accounts? We want maximum transparency and efficiency." All eyes turned to Tyler. For a brief moment, he felt like he was back at the bank, faced with a transaction he didn't know how to handle. But then he took a breath and began explaining the options for nonprofit financial structures, the benefits of certain types of accounts, and the importance of clear audit trails. As he spoke, he realized he did have something valuable to contribute. Years of banking experience had taught him things this group needed to know, regardless of his past shortcomings as a person. "That's incredibly helpful," the city council member said when Tyler finished. "Would you be willing to put together a proposed financial structure for us to review at the next meeting?" "I'd be happy to," Tyler replied, feeling an unexpected sense of purpose. By the time the meeting ended at 9, they had established clear next steps, assigned responsibilities, and set a timeline for the foundation's first initiatives. As people gathered their things and began to leave, several came over to thank Tyler specifically for his input. "You explained those complicated banking issues so clearly," the youth center director told him. "It's refreshing to have someone who can talk about money matters without making it sound like rocket science." When almost everyone had left, Tyler found himself helping Keanu stack chairs against the wall. "You didn't have to stay and clean up," Keanu said. "I don't mind," Tyler replied, realizing it was true. Something about this space, these people, this mission, it felt good to contribute in even small ways. They worked in comfortable silence. For a few minutes before Tyler spoke again, "I have to ask, why me? For this role, I mean. You barely know me, And what you do know isn't exactly impressive. I was rude to you because of how you dressed. Keanu considered this as he straightened a stack of papers on the table. Sometimes the people who understand a problem from the inside are the ones best equipped to solve it. What problem? Judging people by appearances, by wealth, by status, Keanu said. This foundation isn't just about arts funding. It's about creating opportunities for kids who might otherwise be overlooked or underestimated because of where they come from or what they look like. He paused, looking directly at Tyler. I watched you change how you treated people once you realized your assumptions were wrong. That's rare. Most people double down on their judgments even when faced with evidence they're mistaken. Tyler thought about this as they finished tidying the space. So this is some kind of redemption project for me? He asked finally, unsure how to feel about that idea. Keanu laughed, a genuine warm sound that Tyler hadn't heard from him before. No, this is me recognizing a skill set we need combined with a perspective that might be valuable. The redemption part is up to you. As they walked out into the cool night air, Tyler felt lighter somehow, as if something he'd been carrying had been set down without him noticing. There's one more thing I wanted to discuss with you, Keanu said as they reached the parking lot. The foundation needs a physical location for its banking, somewhere accessible to the community. Tyler nodded, thinking of the various bank branches around the city. I can recommend several options based on location and services. Actually, Keanu said, I was thinking specifically of Westside Bank. Your branch. Tyler stopped walking. Our branch? But we're in the financial district. That's not exactly where the kids who need these programs hang out. No, Keanu agreed. But it is where the money is, where the potential donors and supporters work. And it has something else important. What's that? Tyler asked. You, Keanu said simply. Someone who's learned to see beyond appearances. Someone who could help bridge these two worlds. Tyler was silent, trying to process what Keanu was suggesting. I'm not sure I understand what you're asking me to do. I'd like you to be more than just our treasurer, Keanu explained. I'd like you to be our liaison at the bank, to help introduce potential donors to our work, to be the face of this partnership between the financial world and the arts community. The request took Tyler by surprise. It was one thing to manage accounts behind the scenes, but quite another to become a visible advocate for the foundation. I don't know if I'm the right person for that, he said honestly. I'm just a bank teller. You're someone who's willing to change, Keanu corrected him. That makes you exactly the right person. As Tyler drove home that night, his mind was spinning with possibilities. For years, he had seen his job as nothing more than processing transactions and kissing up to wealthy clients. Now suddenly, it could be something meaningful, something that connected his daily work to real impact in people's lives. He thought about the kids who would benefit from the foundation, kids who, like Keanu on that first day, might be judged and dismissed based on their appearance or background. Kids who deserved better than that. Maybe, Tyler thought as he pulled into his apartment complex, this was what people meant when they talked about finding purpose, not just doing a job, but using that job to make a difference. He fell asleep that night thinking about art classes and music lessons, about bridging worlds, and about the strange, winding path that had led him from judging a scruffy-looking customer to sitting at a table with people committed to changing lives. All because he had been given a second chance to show who he really was. Or maybe, who he could become. I've written part 4 of your story, focusing on Tyler's first meeting with the foundation board and his growing involvement with Keanu's charitable initiative. This part shows Tyler's continued character development as he begins to find purpose beyond his bank teller role. Keanu offers him an expanded position as not just the treasurer, but also a liaison between the financial world and the arts community they're trying to serve. The narrative maintains a simple, engaging style with natural dialogue and human-centered storytelling. I've kept the pacing varied with a mix of action, dialogue, and internal reflection to maintain reader interest throughout. The story continues to develop the central theme of seeing beyond appearances while introducing the new element of Tyler, finding greater meaning in his work. Would you like me to make any adjustments to this fourth part before moving on to the final section? I'll write the final part 5 of your story following all your specifications. 1,400 words, no heading, simple English, engaging narrative, natural tone, human-centric, and YouTube-friendly content. This will conclude the story of Tyler and Keanu Reeves in a meaningful way. 6 months had passed since that rainy day when Keanu Reeves had walked into Westside Bank for the second time. 6 months of changes that Tyler could never have imagined when he first dismissed the scruffy-looking actor at his window. The foundation, now officially named Equal Arts Initiative, had transformed from an idea into a thriving reality. They had already launched 3 after-school programs in neighborhoods where art and music classes had been cut from school budgets. A summer workshop series was set to begin next month, with classes ranging from digital photography to classical guitar to street dance. And Tyler, he had transformed too. It was a busy Friday afternoon at the bank. Tyler, now promoted to Community Partnership Specialist, a position created specifically for his new role, was leading a tour for potential donors. 5 wealthy clients of the bank, people who Tyler once would have fawned over simply because of their account balances, were following him through a small gallery set up in the bank's formerly unused conference room. What you're seeing are works created by students in our first 12-week program, Tyler explained, gesturing to the colorful paintings and photographs lining the walls. Every piece tells a story about how these young people see their world. Stopped in front of a particularly striking photograph, a black and white image of an elderly man's weathered hands holding a small bird with a broken wing. This was taken by Carlos, a 14-year-old who had never held a camera before our program. He told me he used to get in trouble for staring at people on the bus, but now he's winning awards for capturing moments like this. The small group murmured appreciatively, moving closer to examine the photo's details. The remarkable thing about arts education, Tyler continued, is how it teaches kids to truly see, not just look, but see the beauty and complexity in things most people walk right past. One of the potential donors, a woman in an expensive suit who Tyler knew managed a hedge fund worth billions, turned to him with genuine curiosity. You speak about this with such passion. Have you always been involved in arts education? Tyler smiled. Actually, no. 6 months ago, I was just a bank teller who judged people based on how they dressed or how much money they had in their accounts. The honesty of his answer seemed to surprise her. What changed? She asked. Tyler glanced at the clock. It was nearly time for the Foundation's weekly board meeting, which was now held in a renovated space above the bank. Let me introduce you to the person who changed everything, he said. He should be arriving for our meeting any minute. As if on cue, the bank's front door opened, and Keanu Reeves walked in. He wasn't dressed like a movie star, just simple, dark jeans and a black t-shirt under a blazer, but there was no mistaking him. A few customers did double takes, and one of the newer tellers dropped the stack of forms she was carrying. Keanu spotted Tyler in the group and walked over, extending his hand to each of the potential donors with the same genuine warmth he showed. To everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to learn about our work, he said simply. For the next 20 minutes, Keanu and Tyler led the group through a discussion of the Foundation's mission, its early successes, and its plans for expansion. There was no mention of Keanu's celebrity status or wealth. He spoke as just another board member who believed in the power of arts education to change lives. By the time the potential donors left, all 5 had committed to supporting the next phase of programs. The hedge fund manager had even offered to host a fundraising event at her home, inviting her wealthy network to learn about the Foundation. That went well, Keanu said as he and Tyler climbed the stairs to the meeting room, where the other board members would be gathering. Better than I expected, Tyler admitted. I was nervous about asking people I used to suck up to for money. Keanu laughed. You've come a long way from the teller who ignored me because of my clothes. I still cringe when I think about that, Tyler said, shaking his head. Don't, Keanu replied. Without that moment, none of this would exist. The board meeting that followed was filled with good news. The youth center director reported that attendance at their programs had doubled. The high school art teacher shared that 3 students from their digital media workshop had been offered paid internships at local businesses. The community theater program had successfully put on its first production, with parents and neighbors, filling every seat for all 3 performances. Near the end of the meeting, the city council member made an announcement that caused everyone to break into applause. The city had voted to include arts education funding in next year's budget for the first time in over a decade, citing the success of the Equal Arts Initiative as evidence of its value. As the meeting wrapped up and board members began to leave, chatting excitedly about the council's decision, Tyler found himself standing with Keanu near the large windows overlooking the city. "Did you ever imagine it would grow this fast?" Tyler asked. Keanu looked thoughtful. "I hoped it would, but the real surprise isn't the foundation's success." "What is?" Tyler asked. "You," Keanu said simply. "The way you've embraced this mission. The way you've used your position at the bank to build bridges between worlds that rarely connect." Tyler felt a familiar wave of embarrassment at the praise, still not entirely comfortable with being singled out for his contributions. "I'm just doing my job." "No," Keanu corrected gently. "You're doing much more than that. You're showing others what you learned, that a person's value has nothing to do with their appearance or their bank balance." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks over the city skyline. "I have something to tell you," Keanu said finally. "I'm starting production on a new film next month. I'll be away for about 12 weeks. Tyler nodded, trying to hide his disappointment. Keanu had become not just a colleague but a friend over these past months. "The foundation will keep running smoothly while you're gone." "I know it will," Keanu said, "because you'll be here." The next day, Saturday, Tyler arrived at the youth center for the weekly photography class he had started teaching as a volunteer. What had begun as a one-time guest appearance had turned into a regular commitment that had become the highlight of his week. As he set up the donated cameras and prepared the day's lesson on portrait photography, he thought about how different his life looked now compared to 6 months ago. Back then, his days had been filled with meaningless judgments and hollow interactions. He had measured people's worth by their clothes, their jewelry, their account balances. His own worth had been tied to his success at catering to wealthy clients. Now, his days were full of purpose. He still worked at the bank, still helped customers with their transactions, but everything had a deeper meaning. Every wealthy client was a potential supporter of the foundation. Every interaction was an opportunity to practice seeing people for who they truly were, not what they appeared to. The students began arriving, filling the room with excited chatter. Among them was Carlos, the teenager whose photograph of the old man had been purchased by one of yesterday's donors for $500, money that would go directly to expanding the program and to a college fund for Carlos. "Mr. Tyler," Carlos called out, rushing over with his camera. "I took more pictures this week. Can I show you?" "Of course," Tyler said, genuinely eager to see what the boy had captured. As Carlos scrolled through images on his camera's small screen, an elderly couple dancing in a park, a stray cat peering from behind a dumpster, a small girl with mismatched shoes feeding pigeons, Tyler was struck by how clearly the teenager saw the world around him. How he found beauty and dignity in subjects most people would overlook. "These are amazing," Tyler told him. "You have a real gift for seeing what others miss." Carlos beamed with pride. "That's what you taught us, right? That everyone deserves to be really seen." Later that afternoon, as the class was ending and students were putting away their equipment, Tyler's phone buzzed with a text message from Keanu. "How was class today?" Tyler smiled and typed back, "Great. These kids see the world more clearly than most adults I know." Keanu's reply came quickly. "That's why what we're doing matters. When people are truly seen, they can become who they're meant to be." Tyler looked around the room at the teenagers laughing and sharing their photos with each other. Kids who, 6 months ago, had no access to arts education, no way to express their unique vision of the world. All because a famous actor had walked into a bank dressed like an ordinary person, and a judgmental bank teller had been given a chance to see beyond appearances. Tyler typed one more message before putting his phone away to help the students clean up. Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't even see myself. Outside, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the city streets. People hurried past each other, most too busy or distracted to truly notice those around them. But inside the youth center, a small revolution was taking place. A revolution of seeing and being seen, of looking beyond surfaces to the worth that exists in every person. And it had all started with a bank teller who insulted Keanu Reeves. Until he saw his $1 million balance. I've written the final part 5 of your story, bringing Tyler and Keanu's journey to a meaningful conclusion. This part takes place 6 months later, showing how the foundation has flourished and how Tyler has transformed both professionally and personally. The story comes full circle with Tyler now teaching others to truly see people beyond appearances, the very lesson he learned from his encounter with Keanu. The narrative maintains the engaging, simple style with natural dialogue throughout. I've included some concrete examples of the foundation's success through individual stories like Carlos, the teenage photographer, to keep the human element front and center. The ending ties back to the original title while showing how much deeper the story has become. It's no longer about bank balances, but about recognizing the inherent worth in every person. Is there anything you'd like me to adjust about this final part to better complete your story?